Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Token Bytes, talking to industry leaders across digital assets, fintech, and financial services from Asia and beyond. Today with me is Kevin Lee, a leading thought leader in digital assets, also an industry leader. He's the Chief Business Officer of Gate.io and the CEO of Gate Hong Kong. Kevin, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm very well.
How was Chinese New Year?
It was good. It was good. Yeah. It's a time for family, obviously, and it's good to have a little bit break after a really hectic year last year.
Yeah, and the year started off on a busy note from what we see for everybody. Kevin, you're somebody whom I kind of identify a little bit with, given your background in terms of transitioning from traditional finance in the investment trading world for the first decade of your career and then getting into digital assets, right? Somewhat similar to what I had in terms of trading and then moving into fintech and digital assets. Would love to learn a little bit more about what your journey has been. As you know, why did you get into investment banking / traditional finance, and then what brought you over into digital assets?
Right, of course. So I started crypto as my career about 4 years ago, but I do believe my first purchase of Bitcoins was in 2013.
Wow, okay.
Or 2012, maybe early.
Just after the pizza was bought,
I do remember that was the all-time high back then.
Yeah.
It was $140 flat, right? I bought it and then it dropped to $90. I was like, oh my God, this thing is scam. I was just like, I'm not going to touch it anymore. I just let it be until 2017.
Yeah.
Then it was like, as we all know, Bitcoin reached 20,000 for the first time.
Correct.
And I was like, and just like the typical case,
I
lost my password. I upgrade my phone already. I upgrade my phone already, so I don't have my 2FA. So I've been through weeks of like dealing with the customer service of that exchange to finally got back my Bitcoins, and I sold it back then at 2017. So it was a good return.
Nice.
Nice return. And I think that was the time I start to take a look at the crypto market a little bit more. Not only Bitcoin, but like at the time, there's also Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, etc.
And
with and with like a little bit of trading background back then, I was just trying to do some the arbitrage trade for my P8.
Sure.
So it's getting more and more into crypto, but at the same time, I think it's only about 2020, 2021 when the Hong Kong regulators, the SFC, proposing regulations on virtual asset. I think that's the key signal for me, because like I've been licensed with the SFC for more than a decade.
Sure.
And I do believe that whenever they think it makes sense to have a regulatory framework, they would not do a U-turn. They may be slow a little bit, as we all aware.
You need to be prudent for
but they never actually like put a brake and then U-turn. So I think that's would be a key signal for me to make a career change.
Sure.
And at that time I was thinking, well, crypto may go up and down, as we see it did go up and down, but I think the industry as a whole will stay. So that's how it motivated me to move to a new career.
What were you doing in traditional banking or investment banking before making this transition?
What
was the role you were doing in the
industry? Oh yeah, well I was in algorithmic trading for like more than 15 years. It was the cool things back then. Now everyone is algo traders
using agents. Right?
Exactly. We'll come back to that. But yeah, it was. I did see the trend or the booming start of algo trading in bankings. So I see similar patterns in crypto and now in AI as well. So I can't see like day-to-day movement, right? But I have a general confidence about like the long-term developments of crypto, and so is AI.
Yeah, and I agree. Look, similar time when I started 20 years ago, literally started off as a point-and-click electronic trader, but competing against algos, right? Even on the other side, and trading commodities in rates, futures of rates, and commodities. And you would see what I see when I see price action, etc. on Bitcoin. It reminds me of some of the illiquid futures of commodities, right, which would have a high volatility. And as there are more people coming in, it starts becoming more pattern based because there are more people using. It's also a self-fulfilling in some senses. So you use charting. Is it charting causing this, or the other way around? I feel because a lot of people start using charting, you start entering, and it starts forming that story. In any case, for everybody watching, this is not investment advice. We're not talking about whether you need to invest or not in these products. We're just talking about market structure and action. Please do your own research and be mindful whenever you invest in any securities, any commodities, any virtual assets, and make sure you do it with the licensed players. So, Kevin, that's being in the trading world, right? It kind of you identify with an asset that is moving, and how did then this opportunity come to join and move into digital assets for you?
Well, I guess like having the regulatory framework in Hong Kong, I think is a key. And I'm not saying because I just because of SFC or anything. It's just like I see myself as like a really regular. Well, a lot of people, if you know me, you would think that I'm a little bit of degen, but like I'm a corporate guy. I'm always a corporate guy. So I think having a compliant framework for the assets class is a key for me to understand it and to leverage my my knowledge in the field, right? Without the regulatory framework, and even like to this day, we hear about stories of like how other people do business in our field. We will be amazed, just like, what do you mean you can do this? Because there are things that's so illegal that never actually come across our mind. That's for sure, right? So I think that's helped me to navigate the field much better. And that's also one of the reason I joined Gates as well, is like they want to have a regulated presence in Hong Kong, as we all know, and we hope that Hong Kong will become one of the hubs for Web3 and crypto.
Yeah, it's true. We have seen regulations advance in Hong Kong over a period of time. HKMA was one of the first globally to designate Bitcoin as a commodity, so designating it as anything for that matter for any regulator in the world. We're among the first, if not maybe the first, 10 years ago or more. SFC started looking at virtual assets. I think they were very prudent in the way they approached it, in the sense it wasn't, let's just ban it and then see. It was more like, okay, let's see what's happening. How's it impacting? Talking to the market players. Even during the peak of the ICO boom, it wasn't like, let's just ban everything. It was like, okay, we have laws, follow those. And if you're not, we want to figure out what is happening. Like securities tokens, they were like, okay, if you're listing those, take them off. We'll give you a moratorium period, and then you can continue while we figure out the regulations, right? That was the approach. There's education, and now I think we now have a fairly comprehensive regulatory framework, or in the works, with the stablecoin bill, the OTC bill also coming through. So from that perspective, so one is we see Hong Kong as this, we have consensus in the coming days, a lot of buzz, a lot of activity, both on the decentralized side and maybe more centralized digital assets world. What are the key trends you are seeing in crypto broadly, and also more so in Hong Kong or in the region, if you'd like to talk about it?
Well, yeah. So crypto in general, I think, and people is gonna be freak out if they hear me saying this, but like we have like a lot of different things that's not, as previous year we would say like it's more like about infrastructure and fundamentals. And this year, or like end of last year, people was talking about memes and AI generated coins. These are the things that the Hong Kong regulator is never going to be approved, but like they are like what's make the market these seasons in general, right? As we go on, I mean, like we just talk about a lot of things about regulations, right? I have to like change my role a little bit and just to think like what's the actual values in those meme coin, right? They may not actually have utilities, but at the same time, they we have to acknowledge in a way that memes actually not meme coins, memes actually have some values in it, right? Whether it's big or small, it's up to the market. But like something being a meme would have a value, and meme coin may be a way to actually be a good proxy to reflect that value. So I think that's what's happening in the market. I don't know if it's going to go away soon, But hopefully that's only the start, the beginning of like where the meme coins going to start with like attractions, but also they will build utilities on it afterwards. And for your next questions, for Hong Kong, I think that would be like on the very, very different spectrum. I still believe that Hong Kong versus other like regions in the Asia, we still have a very solid traditional finance, financial ecosystem where the integrations between cryptos and TradFi will be the key for this country to thrive in this regard.
Yeah, and in this perspective, in terms of being a jurisdiction, right? One of the things that we saw last year was the big news with BlackRock and most of the institutions getting in, and that's kind of solidified. Do you see that as a trend that will become more prominent this year, especially with conversations about a few countries and some states in the United States talking about the Bitcoin treasury, etc.? Are you noticing more institutions in this part of the world also showing, I would say, not just interest in knowing what it is, but more in terms of wanting to participate, which is two very different things, and that bridge to crossover is a lot challenging than people realize.
I agree. 100% completely agreed. I've been to a few closed door meetings with banks, just like because I crossed the border and I can speak both language a little bit. So they definitely do show interest about like the industry, crypto industry in general, but like they still have a lot to catch up in terms of knowledge and infrastructure as well. But the thing is, from the experience that I have with banks, if they can spell the money, the margins, as we all know, commodity or futures or even equities back in like my times, the margin is not there anymore, right? If they see the margins in crypto, they can move quick. That's things for sure.
It's making a business case eventually. Because the regulatory case, at least in Hong Kong, is more or less made. What would be, one is margins I've spoken about, what else would you say would be key drivers for institutions to cross that bridge over?
Well, I think we talk about individual levels.
Correct,
like FOMO, which is fear of missing out. I make that prediction in another interview before. I probably gonna stick my gun here as well, saying even if the US or like other major developed country not making the Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency at Treasury Reserve just yet, but the indication of that might happen may make corporate FOMO, may make them to fear of missing out. So like there will be a lot more corporate, like Lisco and whatnot, try to make a little bit of like Bitcoins into the treasury, right? And that's where the broker side, the banks and brokers come in and try to help them. I think that would be the key, and that would be like, again, that's something Hong Kong would be doing the most frequently in the traditional finance world as well. It's just like trying to facilitate that.
Okay. And what about the other side, right? Not necessarily the DGen side, but say the decentralized side. What are the things you're seeing come up there which seem interesting, right? Not from an investment perspective, generally from an industry perspective.
I think it's just from the decentralized perspective, I think it's still the fractions of onboarding new users. People, as cliche as could be, people is like always been saying how to onboard the next billion users in crypto, right? I'm so tired of hearing it already. But I think the key is you don't want to onboard another billion to crypto. You want a platforms that already have a billion users and integrate that, right? The like of like Google Pay, Apple Pay, they must have already a billion users. Telegram, they have the Tor network these days. They have 950 million users, so about a billion. So I think that's key, and that's make people the fractions of onboarding them is much easier because they have been using those services already, and they don't need to know how to create a wallet, secure the seed phase, etc. So I think that would be interesting if Hong Kong can do something in that regard and make people use what do we use in Hong Kong? PayMe or FPS, Alipay, whatever, right? Autopass. If they can use this and spend crypto, Hong Kong will be leading by miles.
I think that's going to be quite interesting. You've seen high numbers in stablecoin usage in Singapore as an example, right, where they're starting to use in retail as well. And the stablecoin bill, which is now probably first reading is finished, the second reading in the LegCo about to start soon, would be an important element, because there is now, you have project that the HKMA is running Ensemble to look at various stablecoin use cases. And I feel that is going to be a key driver. You also have Stripe, who are now looking at enabling stablecoins, limited number, albeit in the beginning stage, so, or the payment kind of story, right? I used to say this, 10 years, 15 years ago, and I still say that Bitcoin, from what it was meant to be, this is controversial, but Bitcoin, what it was meant to be initially, has failed as Bitcoin, in the sense of being a peer-to-peer payment rails, right? But it succeeded in its mission in creating other networks and assets that can do it at real time, low cost, all of this, right? We all know the stories where if you're trying to transfer a portion of a bit of a Bitcoin, your cost sometimes can be more than the actual value in the transaction, and it's not really real time either. So I think that's one of the things that we are now seeing is the stablecoin world driving a lot of the action.
Yeah, I want to echo you on that one as well. As the Bitcoins was created, it was trying to steer away from the US dollar, because it's been like a huge inflation, right?
Yeah.
But now we're talking about stablecoin, which mainly packed to like US dollar because of the ease of usage. So I guess let's deflect a little bit, but like in a good way.
Correct. Yeah. Now, coming to Gate, right, both at Gate.io as well as Gate Hong Kong, what are the key things that you guys are looking at in particular for the Year of the Snake?
Yeah, well, this is just for the general audience to know that why do we have this like difference about like Gate.io and Gate Hong Kong.
Sure.
I'm currently wearing two separate hats for Gate Group in general. We want to keep the entities separate, because like Hong Kong is a regulated environment.
Sure.
And for Gate Hong Kong, I believe that we are still looking for opportunity to be regulated and licensed in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Whatever the license that come available to us, we will explore that opportunity.
Sure.
I think Hong Kong will still be a very important place in crypto. And that's like, it's in the plan, it's in motion. So hopefully I can bring some good news to the audience this year.
Sure.
And for Gate.io, I think it's been a very, very old platforms already. It's been this year is 12 years.
Wow.
So in crypto is like eternity already.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It's a long time. So we've been running for a long while. We have great products. We've been through a few cycles already. So we prove our worth by just surviving. I think that's really good, right?
And you're global as well.
And we're global as well. I think this year and a little bit of last year as well, we want to like be more close to the community.
Sure.
Again, this is a little bit of cliche, but I do believe that we're not doing enough for sure. So last year I've been showing up at a lot of events. I'm sure we've met at a lot of events last year already. And then a lot of panels, a lot of like online X space, etc. as well. Last year we sponsor Inter Milan, the football club,
nice.
A slave sponsor a little bit. Anytime you go to Italy, we should go watch the match.
I look forward to it. I love Milan.
Yeah, and as the time that you're releasing these videos, I think we have already announced some good news already. We will be sponsoring the coming seasons of Formula One with the Red Bull racing team.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you heard it first, but I heard it first. But you are here, you're seeing this a little delayed, but we super news, right? But congratulations, that's great news, right?
Thank you.
But you've also been a proponent and spoken out about mental health, right?
Yeah.
And in this industry, look, both of us have been traders. I used to compare when I used to do presentations for recruiting traders about how trading was very similar to Formula One, right? In the sense, it's high intensity, right?
Yeah.
It's expensive. If you mess up, it's a big loss.
Yeah.
While if you win, the rewards are great. But you need 110% you have to be on your game, right?
Yeah.
And so, 11 hours was what I was doing a day at least as trading plus an hour. So you're doing this at high intensity, and it just really impacts a lot of people. Like I knew a lot of smart people who couldn't make it, broke down physically and emotionally. I've seen people cry. I've seen people throw away things, lose their mind during bad trading sessions. But so mental health I do realize is super important. I used to listen to music driving to work. That used to calm me down, and I would try not fighting with anybody, road rage, everything else, so that I'm in a better frame. If I wasn't in a good frame of mind, I wouldn't trade for an hour to calm myself down. So it is important, right, for high performance industries, but broadly speaking, in the financial services world, what have you been seeing? How have you handled that? And what are some of the thoughts or experiences you want to share for people to manage their mental health better?
Yeah. Well. First thing first, I can't say I'm an expert in the field. It's it's like whatever I could share is like coming from my personal experience, and I be a little bit like I want to like a little bit more outspoken, because like this is definitely something that we're not speaking about enough.
Sure.
Now, you're absolutely right. Like a trading floor and Formula Ones. I've heard another analogy about like traders and also poker player as well. Like you kind of get numb about like what you do, and you like at some point you just like can't feel what that numbers means, and then it's like all this like fluctuation or volatility, right? What I see is I'm being very fortunate with like the place I used to work with, the colleagues that I've been with. They are absolutely fantastic. But that's also the key is like this could still happen to you.
Sure.
Just like you catching a viral virus, right? Catching a flu. It could happen anytime, not just because you wear a mask or like you being like wash your hands and you're not getting sick. I think that's the same principle to put it there. A lot of like cultural influence in finance or in like any industry, I would say, is like they will kind of assume that, or like people like from the outside will kind of assume that, well, you sign up for it.
Sure.
You be a trader, that's something that you sign for. You get paid to be stressful. But being stressful is one thing, but like making it like you mentally and physically not healthy is another thing. I think that would be like a bit of key difference, right? Not only on the mental health, but like I spoke out on LinkedIn. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, you probably should, by the way.
LinkedIn, FinTech, and crypto.
I talk about the drinking culture as well, like in Asia in general. Like I couldn't deny that there are business that's to be done while you're having off work hours where you have a couple of drinks. But like the drinking culture can be a little bit toxic as well. You pressure into like drinking as well, which are two different things, right? You sign up for a networking hour to have one glass of beer with some business clients. That's one thing. You force into drinking all night and you're floating up and making you physically ill. That's another thing. I think we can't make everything black and white for sure, but we can make that like somewhere in between. We can say that's maybe enough for me, or that's enough for like your colleagues, and call it a day. Similar for stress, I think I was in the perfect place, perfect company with fantastic colleagues, but it was just not my role to be in that very specific job with that very specific pressures that I couldn't handle. I can do something else. That's something has to be done, and I did it. And nowadays, I'm sure crypto have different kind of pressures and stress. But that's kind of stress that I can handle and I can cope with, and I enjoyed it, so I can keep going.
What would you, if you had to give from a personal experience perspective, some tips for people who are going through maybe a rough time at work or high stressful? How would you suggest they handle based on what you've done, and what changes could they do which is within their control?
Well, there's two perspectives. I would say let's talk about like from the people's getting like impacted first.
Yeah.
It's like you have to go actively seeking help. It's usually is pretty tough. And funny enough, when I share my story, actually there are people like commenting and like sending me a direct message as well. It's like, oh, they have like experienced very similar stress as well. I think sharing is the key. I think that would help. And I think if the first person that you share with that didn't help you, you have to keep going, right? And like coming from a different angle, that's also happened a lot as well. Is like if you know that people around you have the sign of like being stressful or under pressure, don't go and ask him or her just like, why don't you be happier? Or just like go have some fun, make you happier. That's usually not how it works. Again, I'm not a medical expert, but like you at that point of time, you can't just like change your mind and just go have some fun. It's not a flip somewhere in your mind that you can do it. I think that's the worst kind of like response that you can give, saying, well, just be less unhappy and be more happy. I don't think that's gonna work. So just be mindful when you talk to your friends and colleagues and families. When that happens, you may want to get a little bit deeper of like what's actually caused that problem.
Yeah, I remember when I started, it was nobody in my extended family were traders. Some people were in banks, but no one had done trading. I was trading interest rate futures of US markets short term, which no one had a clue about in India as well. So it took me 6 months to explain what I was doing, and then to even share what I'm going through at work, what's happening. It was even my closest friends would struggle to understand, right? It'll be like, oh, okay, you can do better tomorrow, right? I'm like, it's not as simple as that. Yes, it is. In some cases, we'll go back and do it better, but it becomes harder even for people who care for you to know. So one of the things that I started learning was finding some colleagues who also are going through, because they are also probably alone, right? Or alone in the sense of handling this without having, and people also don't want to put that pressure on their family and friends, because that adds on pressure to the family because you're going through pressure. So being able to speak to people who are in the industry, colleagues ideally, if not others as well, I think helps, just because they have experienced it and they can tell you what they have done to deal with it. I feel is a big part of it.
It's also the modern society's problem as well. I mean, like we're probably going too big, but like
I know
it happens more often than like people
know.
Think. Like we so get used to on Instagram, like people is like having fun, having all the successful story. When we go out drinking in like Soho or like Liberty Exchange, everyone's just having the greatest time ever. Every banker's like they talk up themselves, right? They're just like, I'm doing so good. I'm so like. But like underneath, like there are a lot of struggle. I'm sure, like everyone have their own struggles, and when you share, you may find people just like having similar problem that you can like help each other.
And there's no shame. It's something that we all go through, and it's sharing about it is perfectly okay and to do it. Now, switching back, right? Coming back to the industry and what's been happening. Excited about Consensus, but also about one thing that you guys released recently, right? Which is the feng shui report for crypto. Right? Very interesting for me. We're not going to go deep dive too much into it, but would love to know where that's coming from and just broad idea about how this works. Right?
So again, this is not my original idea. For whoever watching the videos, you probably would know about the CRSA feng shui report.
Correct.
They have been doing for like more than 20 years already. I always loved that report. And I still have like friends working with CRSA. So sorry for stealing your idea. The idea as I had in my mind when I first proposed this to our marketing team and our Gates Learn team is that first we want to do something fun but also professional. I think that's my principle in crypto. So like we want to have fun. We remember like 2 years ago we don't have those funds anymore. So like we have funds, and while being professional is key. The second thing is we want to do something different in crypto. We have so many exchanges, so many platforms, and we're trying to copy each other's ideas, whatever this is successful formula. Well, in some way I'm still copying, but I'm copying from CRSA, so that's cheating, but I think that still count as original idea in crypto. So we're the first in doing these things in crypto. I think that's actually quite fun. The third thing is we still want to get a little bit like just closer with our like a Chinese speaking audience. They are, in a way, they are our foundations, right? We have a strong presence in Asia, especially with the Chinese speaking community, and they're loving it. It's just like something that's in crypto. Like I think people in crypto or in trading, they somehow, to like various degree, they believe into feng shui.
Traders are super superstitious, right? I would never trade 13 lots, right?
Oh my God.
If there are 13 lots left, I'm deleting it, or I'm not placing it out if I see 13. It just became a thing for me. I don't know why, but it was just a habit, and it stuck. In good time, bad times, it stuck, right? So yeah, traders are superstitious, but I think it's also about localization, right? To a certain extent.
Exactly, yes.
And this is something which is very common in Asia, not just in East Asia, where we are in the Greater China and region, but even in India, typically when Diwali comes in, which is considered New Year for a lot of people, there is a special trading session called the Muhurat trading.
They would trade for the family BSC. For like a small lot.
It's for like half a day trading, like I said. And there's statistics around it, but I'm not going to say that's a statistic. But quite often people believe that what happens on Muhurat day, whether the Sensex goes up or down, or how positive it does, reflects on the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But that's how it is. But it's culturally having this thing that people believe in, and trading to a large extent is about a bunch of things coming together.
You just remind me that the half of day I have to come back to the office just for India open for half day, on the weekend. It's on the weekend as well. It's funny how these things come around, right? Like India will open on 1st of January as well. It's just like it's like a new year for everyone, but like not India. But now it comes around where like in cryptos, like everything open 24/7. So I couldn't complain anymore. So that's very interesting.
Perfect. Kevin, this has been a very, very interesting conversation, and we're wishing you all the prosperity, health, and wellness in the year of the wooden snake. And thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having me again.
Very, very fascinating conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Audience, stay tuned for more fascinating conversations, and wishing you health, happiness, and wealth in the year of the wooden snake.